Well, today I'm in Harrogate in Yorkshire, and I've come to the Stonefall Cemetery. There are several cemeteries in Harrogate, but this one's a little bit special. I'll just show you the welcome board as we come in. And right over on the right hand side you'll see it's marked War Graves. I'll come to that in a bit. In the meantime, let's have a quick look around the general part of the cemetery and pick out any interesting memorials as we see them. Tall one here with a lot of carving on the cross itself. Not quite sure what those symbols are. But on the base we see Laura Kay, late of Bradford, about 10 miles from here, and then Walter Ramsay Kay and Maud Clifton. Let's move on through. I see a war memorial there. We're going to come to the large war graves area shortly, but scattered throughout the graveyard are one or two memorials. This is J. Burton, East Yorkshire Regiment, 1947, age 33. And at the bottom the family have added, in loving memory, a dear husband and daddy, Marion and Toby. And then if we come down here we see that Marion is 2016. So that's a long part of her life she lived without her husband. Across to my left here are a group of stones, identical stones, with several names on each. They are headed up with SHCJ, which is the Society of the Holy Child Jesus. And you can see on the first one, Sister Kathleen, Sister Christine, Sister Maureen. So this is some sort of convent, a nunnery. Going back here onto the front row of them, there's more of them, and they extend up here. Strangely, right in the midst of this is one to Mike Phillips of the Parachute Regiment. Seems to have got dropped into the midst of these sisters, these nuns. Further into the cemetery I'm seeing another memorial to the same order, Sisters of the Society of the Holy Child Jesus, and there are these plaques lying horizontally with all the names of the sisters. I think these are slightly older than the previous stones we're looking at. And you can see they stand in front of a monument to Christ on the cross. As we move through the graveyard, we can't help but notice several war graves standing amongst all the others. This one's from 1944, W.A. Woolston, age 36. And there's an inscription at the bottom there from the family. But these isolated ones are not the reason I wanted to come to the cemetery. There is a special memorial to around 1,000 men who gave their lives in the Second War. And these were almost all Commonwealth soldiers. 2/3 of them, 650 plus, were from Canada. Others from Australia and New Zealand. The ones I'm picking out now are just stray ones in the cemetery, equally worthy of course. Private Circle, 1917. Quite sure that's 1917 again. And another one here, 1916. Now the 1,000 or so, the special area in this graveyard, these are people from the bomber groups which were based up in Yorkshire, and they were badly shot up on their various missions, and so the crew were often injured and came back to the hospitals here in Yorkshire, where many of them died. And that's why we have so many buried here in this graveyard. We'll get round to them shortly. In the meantime, my eye's taken to this very elaborate one here. There's an angel in white clinging to a cross. Quite distinctive in this graveyard because there aren't very many big ones. And if I come down to the front here, also Ella, dear wife of Arthur Horrocks, in love and memory of Joan, beloved daughter of Ella and Arthur Horrocks. So this is a Horrocks memorial. And next door, another one in very white, clean marble stone. Dearly missed Michael John Dawson, OBE, DL, most special husband, father and grandfather, 80 years old. Now all over I'm seeing the war graves. There's a large row at the back there, but there's odd ones scattered around the graveyard. These are not of the Commonwealth people. These are UK-born soldiers on the main. Let's just pick out a couple as we go round. This one here, aircraftsman K. Beavers, Royal Air Force, 1941, age 21. The beloved youngest son of Henry and Eleanor Beavers. He answered the call of duty, then came the call of God. And across here, G.C.A. Kibler, Royal Signals, 1939. Now there's a couple over there, but we'll make our way across to the row of memorials. You can probably just make them out. On our way across we pass what must be a child's grave with a little statue on it in loving memory of Audrey, and I'm not getting a date and age on it. Well, there's always a first. These two graves at the back and the one at the front are commemorating members of the Soviet forces. 1st of January 45, that one. Take you to the two behind. It is the first time I have seen memorials to Soviet forces. Of course they were on the same side as us in the Second War to defeat the German armies. And then back along the row I'm seeing pilot, Royal Canadian Air Force. Now these are some of the 660, I think it was, who are buried here. Now that's an unusual stone. I think that's Belgium. That's Royal Air Force. Royal New Zealand Air Force. Royal Air Force. Royal Air Force. West Riding Battalion. Pilot in the Royal Air Force. Beautifully kept. The grass here is almost like a bowling green, with the rose bushes kept trimmed between the stones. That's the Canadian Air Force there. You don't see so many of those. the Army Dental Corps. They must have had their own dentists. Royal Australian Air Force. Royal New Zealand Air Force. These guys came across here to fight for us. It wasn't their country, but they came to the UK and fought on our side and gave their lives. This is Mr. Moore, flying instructor of the Royal Air Force, flying instructor, age 23, and with a DFC, Distinguished Flying Cross. What an eventful young life he had. So go on right the way down. New Zealand, Royal Air Force, Auxiliary Territorial. Now the one behind, I'm going to guess here that this is probably a German memorial with the cross at the top. I may be wrong. Maybe a shot down pilot. I don't know. There are more in the back row here, isolated. Let's have a look. Army Catering Corps. Well, I've come now to the main military part of this cemetery, where the majority of the 1,000 troops are commemorated. And as I've said earlier, almost all of them were Commonwealth troops. And if you think that's a lot to look at, I'm only in the middle. If I pan to the left, there are rows upon rows more. If you try and visualize that as each one is a young man, 18, 20, 25 years old, one or two a little bit older, standing there, you realize the enormity of it all. And they're commemorated here because the majority of them died in the Yorkshire hospitals, returning from various bombing raids during World War II. Let me just run across a few names along the front here. That's the Royal Air Force, the Royal Australian Air Force, the Royal Canadian Air Force. There are 660 Canadians here. Royal Canadian, Dunlop pilot, Royal Canadian, Royal Canadian, Royal Canadian. It's just overwhelming. I'll pass across into the rows behind, beautifully kept here. Royal Canadian, Royal Canadian. "25 years old, 31 years old, 22, 26, 'This is looking at 1/4 of the memorials. Royal Canadian, Royal Australian. Lovely to see it so beautifully kept. Come across to the other side. There's the large memorial. Move across here, just have a look at here. We'll see we've got the American flag on this one. Although it says Royal Canadian Air Force, it's got the stars and stripes pinned in front of it. Canadian, Canadian, Canadian. It's just enormous. The enormity of it all. Just picture a young man standing at each of these spots. No, I don't think there's any significance. There's a row of 4 over there. I'll step over this flower bed. Nope, Royal Canadian Air Force. Canadian Air Force. I'm moving down to the other section now, but I suspect we're going to find very much the same. I'm seeing Royal Air Force on this front row, and there's the Royal Canadian Air Force and the Royal Canadian Air Force. It's very reminiscent of the multiple large cemeteries you see from the First World War in the battlefields of Europe. These are Second World War graves. Canadian, Canadian. Everywhere I'm looking I'm seeing Canadian. You have to realise also that the families never got to see these graves. You know, post-war people just didn't travel that much. So the Canadian families, the Australian families have probably never been here to see the commemoration of the lives of their sons. Now I have to be careful here because I believe there is one woman amongst all these graves, reading some notes, but I suspect I'm not going to find her because there are so many to work through. Now there's a stone over in the corner here, standing by itself. Those honoured here died in the service of their country and lie buried in Edlington St Peter New Churchyard, and that's from the First World War. Walk across here to see these isolated ones in case there is a significance to them. Northumberland Fusiliers, aged 19, that's the First World War. And again, oh that's interesting, L.R. Bryan of Jamaica, Royal Air Force. Let's go back a bit to the one behind, 1947 again. Going to go across here. And we're back with the very many Canadians. Royal Canadian Air Force, as far as I can see. Pan back to this one. Royal Air Force. Pilot, Royal Air Force. Imagine these are the young men from the Commonwealth, the majority, who died. There must be as many, maybe many more, that went back to their countries after the war with injuries that affected them for the rest of their lives. Shrapnel wounds, maybe lost limbs, maybe mental problems. Well, I'm going to leave this section of the cemetery and we'll have a look at the other graves that are here. Well, further into the graveyard is a new section where the newer graves are held. We'll do a walk through on this and show you some of the new stones and pick out anything that stands out. This one over here is heart-shaped, and the one next to it is a sort of petal-shaped. We'll look at the heart-shaped one. Ever-loving memory of William Billy Hall, and there's horses beneath. George Montague, Henry Osbaldston Dilworth, Michael Kevin Durden. Aged 14. It's a lovely middle name there, George Septimus Liddell. Don't find so many Septimuses now. It looks Italian. Roberto Bisolati. Donald William Stewart. Let's move back a row, just get a slight change of scenery. Karen Hughes, Dorothea Eggert, Alfred Emile Bagshaw, another Bradshaw there. Andrew Cranfield, Bugsy, age 17. Pretty little grave, 37 years old. And I've moved up into yet another section. Quite clearly these are recent graves, a lot of flowers. In fact, directly in front of me is one that's only just been filled in. Very popular nowadays is the black stone and the gold writing. Looking for particularly things out of the ordinary. Water guy here. He's got an image on his gravestone that tells us a little bit about him. He's got his beloved cat. Loving son, brother and uncle. It catches my eye, the one over there. One in the shape of the letter A. Aska. Presumably that's the surname. And the A really makes it stand out well. Let's move through. You know, they're lovely and easy to read, the gold on the black. But wouldn't it be nice if they just told you in 2 words, 3 words, something about the man or the woman? Postman, nurse, architect, something like that would just tell you so much more about these people. Here we are, someone's done that. David Bindley, scientist and writer. Now I've got a little picture in my mind about David. It's not just another name. Well, I'm looking over there with a very large red cross on the back of the stone. So let's see if that's anything interesting on the face. Stars and stripes on that one. For this one, it just says T. Martin Wright. Now over on the left here, it's got a lot of children's graves. Always a very poignant part of the graveyard. I'm seeing more down there against the hedge. And these ones, until we meet someday, Mummy and Daddy, I'll sparkle in the sky. Across the path here, there are some children nearby. A mother is attending one of the graves. We'll keep them out of camera shot. This one's very detailed, very cared for, with the angels. One done as an owl back here. Mia, Violet, Nichols. Detailed one. This is a very large children's area. I don't often see so many of them in the one area. And in this section too. One at the back there, full of little toys and mementos. 4 months old, beautiful baby girl, Millie Abigail. Well, one down here, with the picture of the baby boy. Born sleeping, a stillbirth, born sleeping. Well, that was 15 months or thereabouts. George Stephen Buck. One over the back there looks, or two or three of them over the back there are very recent losses. That one hasn't got any name on it yet. That one there was stillborn in 2024. And this one's same. So sad. One there, 8 months, 10 months old. Oh, look at this one, 10 years old. Moored. Well, I'm going to draw it to a conclusion at this point. That was my visit to the Stonefall Cemetery in Harrogate, with the magnificent memorial to the 1,000 air crew that gave their lives and died up here in Yorkshire. I hope you found the video interesting. Till the next time. Well, let me end my visit to this graveyard with more shots of the very moving war graves. If you do have a chance to come up to Harrogate, then come out to Stonefall Cemetery. Hope you found it interesting. Till the next time.